All right, so here we are in the next part. Remember, we're still talking about the season of leaving, and the principle is this: if you leave well, you set yourself up as well as possible to enter well wherever you're going next. Okay, and if you leave poorly, then you set yourself up in some ways to enter poorly. Okay, so you want to leave well. You really do. Trust me in this. If you leave well, you'll you'll you won't leave any loose ends. You will be able to move forward, and you will give yourself the best possible chance to quickly find a sense of belonging and a sense of being settled in your new location, wherever you're going next. Okay? So I asked you to do this, to make this list of people. You're not going to turn this into me, okay? I should have said that at the end of the last video. So if you were inhibited by making this list of people because you thought I was going to see it, pause this video right now and add those people that you left off because you thought I was going to see them. You're not going to show this to anybody. You can crumple it up and drop it in the trash can in a few minutes, okay? But I do want you to make this list. So if you skipped making the list, pause the video, make the list, and then start the video again. All right? Okay, so we are going to be talking about the raft, and this is from the writings of David Pollock. You'll see it in the TCK book. 4 logs that make up the raft that will carry you away from here. The metaphor is a little bit strained, but it works. David Pollock wanted a vehicle, a mode of transportation that he could use to illustrate this, and so so it's the raft. Okay, the first log in your raft is reconciliation, R. Okay, healing those damaged relationships. You guys, this is so important. That's important, and I just said that. Do not leave Faith Academy with unresolved issues between you and someone else. Okay? Don't leave with unresolved conflict between you and someone else. You never know which unresolved conflicts are going to cause you heartache, grief, and pain, and guilt, and stuff like that later on. But don't reconcile damaged relationships for your own benefit. Reconcile damaged relationships because it's the right thing to do, okay? As I've said many times before, the quality of your life will always depend on the quality of your relationships, first with God and then with everyone else. Whatever else you accomplish in life, if you become rich, if you become famous, if you become powerful, if you don't know how to have good relationship, your life is going to suck. And you're going to be miserable no matter how much money you have, okay? So, learning how to reconcile damaged relationships it may be the #1 most important quality to be able to have good relationships with other people, okay? All right. Oh, yeah, there we go. Do not leave with unresolved issues between you and someone else. You guys, I wasn't always good at this. I could tell you story after story of times that I really screwed this up. And I often do tell a fairly long story in class, depending on the mood of the class, about a time when I just did this totally wrong when I was in high school. And I feel guilty about it because I can't find that guy that I was extremely mean to in high school, one of my good friends. It causes me grief whenever I think of it. And I've pretty much resolved it within myself, but I wish so much that I could find that guy and apologize, but I can't. And so there's no way. So don't leave with unresolved issues between you and someone else. So through the years, I've learned how to do this. As soon as I find out that there's some kind of conflict between me and someone else, I do something about it if it's at all possible. So, like, you guys know me. You've been in class with me. I say stupid things sometimes. I do stupid things sometimes. And sometimes I hurt students. I hurt their feelings. You know, I'm joking around. I think I'm being funny, but all I'm doing is being a jerk, and I'm hurting someone's feelings. And and frequently, it's embarrassing how frequently, but every once in a while, a student will come up to me and say, "Hey, you know what? When you were teasing, that girl in class, you really kind of hurt her feelings. When you were saying that stuff about that guy, I think you really kind of hurt him." And that just I never like hearing that. I always just kick myself for doing things like that, because I cross that line too often. But I'll say this: I appreciate the students who let me know that I've hurt someone. Okay, and so as soon as I can, I will talk to that student that I hurt. I've even gone, like someone will say this to me, and it's like the middle of fifth period. I'm like, oh shoot! I'll go to the office. I've done this probably 2 or 3 times. Find out the name, like what class is that student in. I'll ask Ate Mars, hey, what class is that student in? Well, he's in Mr. Graff's class right now. Okay, good. So just before the end of fifth period, I'll go and like hang out in front of Mr. Graff's room, and as soon as the bell rings, I'll be like, oh, do, like I'm walking, and the student comes out of the room. I'm like, oh, hey, I'm glad I saw you. Can I talk to you for a minute? And I'll apologize for saying those things to that student, because I don't want it to go until lunchtime. I don't want it to go until after school. I don't want it to go until I see that student again. I don't want to email this student and maybe he doesn't look at his email until tomorrow sometime. I want that student to know as soon as possible that I'm sorry that I said those stupid things, and to hear me apologize for being a jerk. And so I'm like middle-aged, and I've learned how to do this over a long life of saying stupid things. And I hope that you can learn this sooner than I did, and learn it now. You'll have a much better life. Okay. Some of the students that I got a bug in my hair. Some of the students that I feel like maybe I'm closest to or have the best relationship with are students that I've hurt in the past. And through the process of me saying something stupid but then apologizing, it doesn't just resolve that issue, but it actually strengthens our relationship. It makes me more sensitive to that student. It makes the student feel appreciated and valued. Anyway, I'm going on about this too long. So, for you, don't leave that list of names that you made. Not all of those people on that list. I wanted you to list just everybody to start with. Not everybody on that list are people that you have to apologize to or reconcile a relationship. And I've heard this one so many times. Oh, when I first came to Faith Academy, this girl, she bullied me all year long. But then, in 6th grade, we became friends, and now she's like my best friend. And like, I only know them sometimes as like seniors, and they're like inseparable. They're best friends, but like back in elementary school, they hated each other. That's probably not something that needs to be resolved. But if you were friends with someone, and then that relationship was broken for some reason, a lot of times, like the American students will go on furlough for a year and be gone for a year, and when they come back, their friend group has evolved and changed, and maybe there's no room for them anymore, and that hurts. Maybe something needs to be reconciled there. Boyfriends and girlfriends that break up. I see this all the time. I hate this at Faith Academy. Mostly the Koreans, in all honesty. They break up, and it's like they hate each other for the next year. It's like war. They break their friend group into pieces. Half go with him, half go with her, and they're just like gossiping and criticizing and mocking, and it's just it's awful. You guys, it doesn't have to be that way. Okay, it really doesn't have to be that way. I had two girlfriends, long term, like about a year each, girlfriends, one in high school and one in college before I married my wife. And I broke up with those girls, and within a couple of weeks, and this was me in high school, within a couple of weeks, we were friends, you know, doing stuff together, hanging out still. I mean, there's a way to, maybe not within a couple of weeks, I mean, one of them came to my wedding. We were still such good friends. One of them came to my wedding. One of them used to support us, my wife and I. She used to send us missionary support. You don't have to be enemies. You can reconcile those relationships, and it's the right thing to do. God is all about reconciliation, right? That's us, right? We were separated from God. He reconciled us to himself. In 2 Corinthians 5 something, he says, and he has given to you the ministry of reconciliation. Now he's talking about reconciling others to God through Christ, but God's heart is all about reconciling relationships. He hates broken relationships. Okay? So, you know what? I realize that I say okay a lot, and I apologize. I'm gonna try and stop saying okay a lot as much. I don't know if I can do that. All right. I'll say all right instead. So, how do you do this? Number one, apologize. Some of you are really bad at apologizing. There was a show that I used to watch when I was a kid. It was very popular in the 70s, called Happy Days. And one of the main characters was Fonzie, Vincent Fonzarelli. Fonzie, he was the cool guy. He rode a motorcycle, wore a leather jacket, and all of that. But he was really, he was cool. And he would never admit that he was wrong. And, you can't apologize if you never admit that you made a mistake, if you were wrong. And so there was this one time where, like, he did something, he feels bad, and he's asking Mr. Cunningham, who's like the father, how do I make this right? He's like, well, you have to apologize. Well, how do I do that? Just go up and say, I was wrong, I'm sorry. And so Fonzie, he's practicing, and he's like, yeah, I just wanted to say to you that I was and I got this. Yeah, I wanted you to know that I was, and he can't say the words "I was wrong." It's a TV show, of course, right? And by the end of the episode, he finally figures this out. But it's a big step for him, and it might be a big step for some of you. There's a certain kind of personality of a person who doesn't like to admit that they were wrong, who doesn't like to admit that they made a mistake, and who's always excusing their behavior by blaming others or saying that it wasn't as bad as you thought. Well, if you hadn't said what you said, then I wouldn't have said what I said. Well, if you hadn't done that first, then I wouldn't have done what I did. So it's really your fault, not my fault. So I really didn't do anything wrong. You're the one that started it, and all of that. If that's you, if you have a tendency to blame other people for your own wrongdoings, then you have a big problem. And now's a really good time to figure that out. Okay? Anyway, how do you do this? Apologize. Number two, ask for forgiveness. And this is awkward. Will you please forgive me? Yes, I forgive you. It can be an awkward conversation, but depending on the relationship, depending on what happened, it may be important to say the words, to actually speak those words. Usually I'll say something like, yeah, I hope you can forgive me for that. And, it's I don't know, figure it out. And forgive. Part of reconciling is not just to receive forgiveness, but also to forgive others. And, that's a big step. And, yeah. So, I mean, that's basically what you have to do. So, somebody always asked around this time, what if it wasn't my fault? What if she was the one who, like I'm not making this up. I'm not, imagining this. It really was her. She's really the one. He's really the one who did something wrong. It really, honestly, truly wasn't me. Okay? Fine, I get that. If it wasn't your fault, two things that I don't have a slide for. So let's go here. It takes two to have a conflict. Okay, so even if the original issue was not your fault, if you've been in conflict with someone else, that's your fault. Okay, you could have gone and figured that out back when it happened, but you didn't. And so you can apologize for letting the conflict go on for so long. I'm sorry that I didn't come and talk to you before this. All right? Don't use this as an example, as an excuse to rant at someone. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for the conflict that's been going on between us that started when you said that stupid thing in the middle of... don't use it as a time to go off and rant about what the other person did. You can apologize for the conflict existing. You can apologize for taking so long to apologize. You just go and talk to the person and say, you know what, this has gone on for too long. This bad thing happened. We don't even need to talk about what it was, unless you want to talk about it. If you want to talk about it, we can talk about it, but I don't need to talk about it. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for my part in it, and I hope that you can forgive me. And that's it. And that's really usually all that it takes. All right? So even if it wasn't your fault, you can still be the one to take the first step to reconcile that relationship. All right? But don't use it as an excuse to bring up all those past faults. Where am I? Okay, so how do I do this? You can walk up and say it. Find a good time and a good place. Don't don't try to do this when there's not enough time to do it well. You can write a note and ask someone else to deliver it. We're in a slightly different period of time. At this point, you probably need to email or message them online. But I would even say do it in person, like on Skype or Messenger or Google Meets or something like that, where you can see each other's faces. Face-to-face is always better. Texting, emailing, and all of that, you miss. So much of communication is nonverbals, facial expressions, tone of voice, gestures, all of those things that you don't get any of that in an email or a text. Like if you haven't talked to this person for a while because you've had this conflict and you send a text message or something like that, they can read any tone they want into that. They can read sarcasm into it. Yeah, I just hope you'll forgive me, See what I mean? Better to do it where they can have those nonverbals. You can ask a mutual friend to pass it. These get more and more cowardly as I go down the list. But, whatever. But that's where you start. And this is your next assignment, the Reconciliation Project. I want you to actually do this with 3 people. I'll give you 4 points for each person, a total of 12 points for doing this. I want you to apologize. I want you to ask for forgiveness. And I want you to forgive. And then I want you to just write a short reflection about each of these. Don't tell me names. I don't need to know the names of the people. If you want to tell me the names, whatever, but I don't need to know anyone's names. You can just describe to me the circumstances. You can describe to me how you communicated with that person and how the conversation went and what the result was and how you feel about it all. I cannot promise that this is going to go well. I wish I could, but we're talking about human relationships here, and they're variable. They're hard to predict. And so this might all backfire. It might blow up in your face. It might get worse, okay? I can't promise that this is all going to turn out right, but I can tell you this. I've been doing this for a long time in this class, and I would say 98% of the time it's not bad. And probably 90% of the time it's actually good. And the rest of the time that it's not bad, it's just like, meh, we did it. It's fine, whatever. It wasn't particularly good or bad. Okay? So, I want you to do this. I will post this as an assignment. I'll give you 12 points. This is, it's a super easy assignment, but very difficult to do. It's an easy 12 points. And I can all but guarantee that you're going to appreciate this experience, because that's mostly the reflections that I get. I really didn't want to do this, but I'm really glad I did. And it really turned out well. It was a good conversation to have. Okay? So I think that's in... if you don't have 3 people... Oh, right. So sometimes students are like, I really don't have 3 people that I need to apologize to. Maybe you're just really good at this already. Maybe you learned at a younger age than me how to apologize, how to ask forgiveness, how to forgive, and you've gone through life healing those damaged relationships as they've been damaged. Well, good for you if that's you. Maybe you are blind to the conflict in your life. Maybe something in your worldview, something in your perception of yourself, you don't like to admit that you're not good at relationships, and so you pretend like all your relationships are good, and they're really not. And in that case, if you have that blind spot, I mean, look at yourself, and, I can't help you with that. But for whatever reason, if you don't have 3 people that you can do this for, I would like you to describe for me 3 previous conflicts that you had with, it could be with your siblings or parents or something like that, and then 500 words on why you think you don't have a lot of conflict in your life. Why do you think you're good at this? And I don't mean that like facetiously. I really would like you to reflect on this a little bit. Why don't I have 3 people that I need to reconcile my relationship with? Maybe it's because of this. Maybe it's because of this. But whatever it is, you should be thankful if you're that person that doesn't have a lot of conflict. Maybe you're, how can I say this? Jesus said, "Woe to you when all men speak well of you." You remember that? Woe to you when all men speak well of you. Because if you're the kind of person that people always say good things about, if you're the kind of person that never has conflict, you're probably the kind of person that never confronts your friends when they're doing something wrong. You're probably the kind of person that just kind of goes along with what everyone else wants to do all the time, and that's not necessarily a good characteristic to have. Okay, so, oh my gosh, I keep thinking I'm done and I'm not. I think I kind of already said this. This is not an opportunity for you to list your grievances against someone else. I had to add this slide my second semester that I taught this class. The first semester, it went great. Second semester, so this is like 9 years ago, this girl wrote all these notes and passed them out. She wrote like 12 notes, passed them out to all her classmates, telling them all the things that they had done wrong and that they should come to her and ask for her forgiveness. And I was like, oh my gosh, you got that so wrong. Okay, so don't do this, okay? This is not for you to have an opportunity to go around all your classmates and tell them all the ways that they've treated you like a jerk, okay? So, or been a jerk to you, or whatever. So, just don't do that. And here's some potential wording if you like. Anyway, if you have a hard time with that sort of thing. It's never too late to heal a broken relationship, but it is always difficult. Okay? It's always hard. And don't, when some of those people that you listed down, you may think, oh, I don't have to talk to that person. That's such a long time ago. It's water under the bridge. No, you should talk to that person, and I think you'll find it a good experience. And also, if you were kind of a bully at some point in your history at Faith Academy, then you need to apologize to those people that you bullied. Okay? If you were just kind of a general bully, then try to think of the names of the people that you did that to. But some of you were probably very specific bullies to very specific other students, and some of those students are still at Faith Academy, still in your class. And you may think, they probably don't even remember that. But I promise you, if you were ever mean, if you ever said something mean, if you ever did something mean, if you're ever a verbal or physical bully to someone, even if it was in kindergarten, I guarantee you 100% they do remember. They remember. And even if you're friends now, you should still apologize for that if you've never have before. Okay? And, also, don't go beyond Faith Academy for this. I mean, for this assignment. So, like, a lot of you have other lives, right? You have family outside, you have friends outside, you have church relationships and all kinds of other things, camp and whatever. But for this assignment, just keep it in Faith Academy, unless you really don't have 3 people at Faith Academy, but you can think of 3 people from church, or 2 from faith and 1 from church, or, something like that. But in general, it's just simpler if you keep it with relationships at Faith Academy. All right, and we will move on next to the affirmation log, but for now, good enough.